They laughed when he kicked the dog. No one expected the silent girl to do anything. But what she did next, how she stood, how she stayed, set off a wave no one saw coming. In a world that tried to break her, she chose to rise. This isn't just a story about cruelty. It's about courage that echoed louder than hate. Before you scroll away, my heart honestly sank when I saw that 98% of people watch my videos but don't subscribe. If this video made you feel even a little something, please consider subscribing. It might be just one click for you, but it means the world to me. In the middle of a town too small to be anonymous but too distant to be seen, lived a girl who didn't look up. Not because she was shy, not because she was rude, but because looking up meant making eye contact. And eye contact invited questions, and she'd run out of answers a long time ago. Her name was Mara Jennings, though no one used it much anymore. Not since the accident. She walked with her shoulders slightly forward, arms tucked tight to her sides, as if bracing for an invisible storm. People whispered, "That's the girl from the river crash," or "She's the one who lost her brother, right?" As if her whole existence could be summarized in a headline. Her home wasn't quiet, exactly, but it was lonely in a way that echoes. After the crash that took her twin brother, Noah, her father stopped speaking in full sentences. Her mother worked double shifts and triple weekends. Grief had stretched their family thin, and Mara learned to live in the silences left behind. But there was one thing that hadn't left. One soul that didn't treat her like a wound that might split open again. A dog named Boone. Boone was massive, part German Shepherd, part something wilder. He had a thick coat of rust-colored fur and eyes that seemed to understand too much. Noah had found him in the woods 2 years ago, tangled in barbed wire, whimpering. They saved him together. After Noah's death, Boone had refused to leave Mara's side. He followed her like a quiet shadow, slept outside her bedroom door, and barked at anyone who approached too fast or too loud. The school had tried to ban him, so Mara stopped going. She didn't need people. She had Boone. Their days were simple. Mara would draw in her notebook under the sycamore tree behind the trailer park. Boone curled at her feet. She didn't speak, didn't write much, but her drawings, they were filled with fire. Wolves running through forests, girls with lightning in their hands, and always a dog standing guard. No one saw those pictures. No one saw her until the day they kicked Boone. It began like any other humid Thursday in Willow Creek, the kind where sweat sticks to your back before breakfast, and the air hums with static. Mara had walked Boone to the gas station on 9th, the only place nearby with cold soda and a cashier who didn't ask questions. She tied Boone to the fence post outside like always, patted his head, and went in. It only took 3 minutes. 3 minutes. When she came out, she saw them. 3 boys from the high school, loud, bored, mean in that aimless, feral way teenage boys sometimes get when the world hasn't taught them kindness. Boone hadn't barked. He never barked first. He just stood up, ears alert, tail stiff. The biggest boy, Logan Green, football shoulders and an empty smirk, leaned down and said something to Boone Mara couldn't hear. Then, in a movement too fast to stop, he kicked him. Hard. Boone yelped and dropped, his side hitting the gravel with a sickening thud. Mara's world froze. She didn't run, didn't scream. She just stood there, every muscle locked, her fists clenched so tight the nails bit her palms. The other boys laughed. "What? It's just a dog," one of them muttered. Mara stepped forward. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The words were there, pressing behind her teeth like a dam about to burst, but her voice wouldn't obey. Boone staggered to his feet, shaky, breathing fast. He didn't growl, didn't snap. He limped to Mara and stood behind her, as if still trying to protect her. Something snapped in her. Not loud, not public, not viral, internal, quiet, permanent. She didn't yell. She didn't hit. She simply walked past the boys without flinching, knelt beside Boone, and rested her forehead against his. Then, slowly, she pulled a red marker from her bag, and on the sidewalk in front of them she wrote, "You will not touch what I love." She left the message there and walked away, Boone limping beside her. It could have ended there. But someone had been filming. A girl across the street, Jada from school, the one with the phone always out, caught the entire moment. No editing, no filters, just a girl, a dog, and a message written in red. She uploaded it to TikTok. By nightfall, it had 60,000 views. By morning, 6 million. The internet exploded. Mute girl defends injured dog. This broke me. She didn't speak, but she said everything. People reposted it with tearful captions. Artists recreated the scene in digital paintings. Celebrities tweeted crying emojis. Hashtags started trending. Protect Boone. She spoke without speaking, "You will not touch what I love." But Mara didn't know any of that. Not yet. She was home, sitting on her bedroom floor, drawing a picture of Boone wrapped in a firestorm. Not because she wanted the world to notice, because she needed to breathe. When her mother burst into the room holding her phone, eyes wide, everything changed. "Mara, you need to see this," she whispered. For the first time in months, Mara looked up, not just at her mother, at the world. And the world was looking back. Mara didn't speak when the views crossed 10 million. She didn't speak when her name started trending, when reporters knocked at their trailer door, when the local news parked a van outside with lights bright enough to peel paint. She didn't have to. The internet had already filled the silence with its own voice. But something was happening, something even she couldn't ignore. People were listening. Her drawings, once hidden in the corners of her notebooks, now spread like sparks across the internet. Someone had found her sketch of Boone standing in flames, his eyes fixed on something unseen, and shared it with the caption, "This is what love looks like." The post went viral in under an hour. Art communities rallied. Teachers assigned her drawing and empathy projects. Animal rescue groups flooded her inbox, asking to use her quote on posters. "You will not touch what I love." And then came the letters. Actual letters. Not emails, not DMS. Envelopes with stamps and handwriting that wobbled and shook. One from a boy in Nebraska who wrote, "They used to push me into lockers. I didn't think anyone would ever stand up for me. But you did. For your dog. It made me feel braver. I told my mom today about the bullying." One from a woman in Georgia. "I lost my son last year. I haven't left the house since. But I saw your drawing, and somehow I finally stepped outside." And one from a little girl in Maine with crayon handwriting. "My dog got kicked too. I was scared to say anything. But now I want to say, stop. You're brave. I think I can be brave too." Each letter came with a name, a return address, a piece of someone's truth. Mara read them all. Boone would curl beside her, head in her lap, as she traced each sentence with her fingers. She still hadn't posted a single word online. But her silence had never meant nothing. It had only ever been waiting for something worth answering. And now she had it. Eli, the gas station cashier, was the first person to ask the question everyone else had danced around. He found her sitting on the back steps, sketching Boone with his head tilted toward the moon. "So," he said, settling beside her, "are you gonna speak?" She didn't answer right away, just turned the page and started a new drawing. This time it was a girl with fire in her mouth, and a dog made of smoke and stars. Eli stared at it, then nodded. "Okay," he said. "Maybe you don't need to." But someone else did. Logan Green's father, coach, councilman, the town's golden voice, called it a media circus. He said the video was out of context, that Boone looked aggressive, that Logan had been protecting himself. Right, protecting himself from a leashed dog sitting down. He went on local radio, voice puffed with indignation, and said Mara was milking a moment, that she hadn't even spoken a word since the incident. How credible could she be? That was the moment everything changed, because that clip, that smug, dismissive jab, it lit the internet on fire. Within hours, the hashtag #SpeakMara began trending. People didn't want another apology from a man in a golf shirt. They wanted Mara. They wanted her words. Eli brought it up again the next day. "You don't owe them anything," he said, offering her a peanut butter cookie Boone immediately tried to steal. "But if you wanted to say something, maybe it's time." Mara stared at the cookie, then at Boone, then at her sketchbook. She didn't nod, didn't blink, just slowly reached for a pen. Not a red marker this time, a blue one. She wrote, "I don't speak because the world is loud. I speak when it matters, and you kicked what matters to me." Mara Eli posted it with her permission. That single note, 7 lines, was reposted over 80,000 times in 12 hours. Someone animated it. Someone else turned it into a mural. The quote ended up on a t-shirt, the proceeds of which went to animal shelters nationwide. And that's when the open letter dropped. It was from the principal of Mara's old middle school, a woman named Ms. Rainier. She wrote publicly, "Mara Jennings was one of the kindest, most observant students I've ever taught. I regret every time I didn't ask if she was okay. I regret not fighting harder to let Boone stay by her side. I will not be silent again." The post exploded. Other teachers added their own voices. "I taught her brother. She drew wolves in the margins of every test. She once stayed behind to clean paintbrushes for half an hour, didn't say a word, just smiled." Suddenly the whole town remembered who she was. Not the girl from the river crash, but Mara. Artist, survivor, protector. And then came the petition. Started by a stranger in another state, it read, "Boone is not just a dog. He's a guardian. He saved her. Let him stay by her side. At school, in court, in life." Within 3 days, it hit 200,000 signatures. Local officials started sweating. So did Logan's father. Too late. Because by then, the video had reached national news. A talk show invited Mara. An animal rights org offered to sponsor Boone's service dog certification. A lawyer emailed her mother. Pro bono. She wanted to help Sue. But Mara didn't care about courts or settlements. She cared about Boone. The way he limped slightly on his right side since that day. The way he still twitched in his sleep. The way he wouldn't sit near fences anymore. So when a local artist offered to paint a mural on the gas station wall, the exact spot where it happened, Mara drew the design herself. It wasn't revenge, it was memory. A massive Boone, standing tall, eyes fierce and loyal. Behind him, a girl made of wind and fire, her hand resting on his back. And above them both, one sentence, "Love doesn't run, love stands." On the day the mural was unveiled, people crowded the sidewalk. Boone wore a red bandana. Mara stood quietly, sketchbook in hand. She didn't need to speak. The world already heard her. But then, just before they left, she turned to the crowd, and for the first time, her voice rang out, clear and steady. He stayed. Nothing more, nothing less. But that single sentence, it made the world stop, There's a thing that happens when the internet moves on. It forgets. The hashtag's quiet, the comments slow. People return to their own lives, their own griefs, their own dogs. But for Mara and Boone, the world didn't slow. It sharpened. Because now, everyone knew them. They weren't just a girl and her dog anymore. They were symbols, statements, rallying cries. And as empowering as that was, it also came with a new kind of pressure, the weight of being an example. Mara didn't want to be famous. She just wanted to walk Boone past the same gas station without seeing his body flinch. She wanted to eat a sandwich without 3 different people asking for selfies. She wanted quiet again. But quiet didn't come. Not when another video surfaced. This one showed Logan. Yes, the same Logan, laughing behind the wheel of his truck while speeding through a neighborhood. The person filming said he had swerved toward a kid on a bike. Missed by inches. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a dog anymore. It was about a pattern. The school board, already shamed by public opinion, moved quickly. Logan was suspended, then removed from the baseball team. His father called it a political hit job. But the town had started to see through the gold-plated lies. Still, Mara didn't gloat. She didn't post. She didn't even draw about it. She just walked Boone, fed him chicken from her plate, and kept writing letters. One of them was to a woman named Eliza from Vermont. Her therapy dog had passed away, and she said she hadn't spoken out loud since. Mara sent her a sketch. Boone sitting with a small girl, a speech bubble between them that read, "Sometimes you don't need to speak. Sometimes being heard is enough." Eliza sent back a photo of herself smiling for the first time in months. Another letter came from a teacher in Texas who'd printed out Mara's drawings and started a weekly courage wall where kids could post what made them brave. Mara didn't reply with words that time. She sent a package instead, one of Boone's old red bandanas, washed and folded. But with every letter, every message, Mara started feeling a tug, something rising beneath the surface, something unsaid. Boone felt it too. He had started waking in the middle of the night, standing at the door, not barking, just standing, as if listening for something. Eli noticed it one evening when he dropped by with root beer floats. "You okay, buddy?" he asked, kneeling to scratch behind Boone's ears. Boone didn't flinch, but his tail didn't wag either. Mara watched him. Then, for the first time in days, she drew. The sketch was simple. Boone facing a long hallway, shadows on both sides, ears forward. But behind him, tethered to his collar with a red string, was Mara. No leash, just connection. And the caption? "If he walks into the dark, I'll go too." A week later, the fire came. Not the kind from matches or rage. This one was slow. Quiet. It started with a break-in at the gas station. The mural was defaced. Spray paint scrawled across Boone's face, the word liar in black, jagged lines. Eli called the cops. The footage showed 3 figures in hoods. One of them? Logan. Clear as daylight. He was arrested that night. Mara didn't cry. She didn't shout. She walked to the mural, stood in front of it with Boone beside her, and began to repaint. People came. First a few, then more. Eli brought sandwiches. The art teacher from school brought brushes. Someone handed Mara a ladder. Together they painted over the vandalism, not to erase it, but to grow past it. When it was done, the mural was bigger. Now it showed Boone and Mara not just standing, but walking forward. The shadows behind them were painted gold, as if to say, even the worst of it can be turned into light. Underneath, new words were added. Truth walks, hate hides. After that, the letters doubled, then tripled. A family in Idaho said their son started sleeping through the night again. A man in Colorado said he brought home a rescue dog and named her Mara. But not everything was soft and beautiful. One morning, a brown envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a photo of Boone, printed from the internet with red X's across his eyes. Eli saw it first. He burned it before Mara could see. Or so he thought. She found the ashes. She didn't say anything. Just pressed her forehead to Boone's and stayed there for a long time. That night, Mara posted one sentence to her blog. "I will not run from shadows. I will name them." It was the first time she'd posted without a drawing. The response? A flood. People shared their own shadows, abuse, silence, loss, healing. The blog transformed from a gallery to a gathering. They renamed it. No longer just Boone's story. Now it was called We Stay. The name caught fire. A publisher reached out. They wanted Mara's letters, sketches, captions, all of it, as a book. Proceeds to go to therapy dog training programs and trauma recovery initiatives. Eli asked if she wanted to do it. She nodded, then added one condition. No edits. Keep my silence in the pages, too. Some pages should be blank. Some things don't need words. They agreed. The book went to print that winter. Mara and Boone didn't celebrate with cake or balloons. They celebrated the only way they knew how. A walk through the quiet woods. No cameras, no reporters, just a girl, her dog, and a world that, for once, was finally learning to listen. Winter crept in like a held breath. Snow coated the town in soft hush, muffling the streets, frosting the mural until only Boone's eyes peeked through the white. But Mara didn't mind the quiet. Not anymore. She walked through it like she belonged to it. Boone's paws left careful tracks behind them, 4 deep prints, followed by 2 boots and 1 long shadow. Together they traced the same path each day, from the front porch to the mailbox, past the bookstore, across the hill by the frozen lake. Mara's scarf was too long. Boone's bandana was faded now, almost pink instead of red. But their rhythm never broke, and that rhythm mattered. Because beneath the peace, pressure had been building again. The book was out. It wasn't flashy. Cream-colored cover. A pencil sketch of Boone sitting under a tree, eyes towards the horizon. No title on the front, just a single phrase on the spine. We Stay. It didn't need marketing. Word of mouth carried it faster than any ad could. Therapists read it to clients. Teachers used it in classrooms. Librarians placed it on front tables with handwritten notes that said, "This one will make you quiet for all the right reasons." Mara didn't go on a book tour. She didn't sign copies or pose with microphones. But the world showed up anyway. Letters kept coming. Some from people she would have never expected. A firefighter who held a child's body once and hadn't been able to talk about it since. A teenager in Japan who hadn't spoken in over a year, but showed his family the We Stay blog and started to draw again. A woman from New York who simply wrote, "You don't know me, but I know you. Thank you for showing up, even when no one else did." And through it all, Boone kept watch. He was aging now, slower to rise, grayer around the muzzle. He didn't chase birds like he used to. But his eyes, they were still fierce, still alert, still Boone. He had become a symbol, sure. But to Mara, he was still just the dog who didn't run. One snowy night, Mara stayed up late sketching. Eli had gone home after their usual root beer float, promising to bring a heated blanket next time because this old cabin could freeze a penguin's tail off. Mara laughed quietly at that. Not out loud, but enough. She sat cross-legged on the rug. Boone curled beside her, breathing slow and deep. She was working on a drawing for a girl named Chloe, a 5th grader whose dad had been deployed and whose journal entry about feeling invisible had gone viral in a classroom letter exchange. Mara drew Boone and Chloe sitting in a cardboard fort, each wearing a paper crown, and underneath she wrote, "You don't need a throne to be brave, just someone who sees you." She stared at it for a long time. Something about the drawing stuck with her. Not the lines, not the message, the quiet between it. That's when Boone whined. Not loud, barely more than a breath, but Mara felt it like a siren. She turned. Boone stood now, his front legs shaking slightly. His eyes didn't leave her. And then he collapsed. Mara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just moved. Blanket, towel. Phone call. Eli was there in 9 minutes flat. They rushed to the emergency vet. Snow blurring the windshield. Mara in the back seat with Boone's head in her lap. Her hand never left his fur. At the clinic, the vet's voice was gentle, but the words were sharp. His heart's tired, that's all it is. He's not in pain, but we're reaching the edge. Eli looked at Mara, ready to step in, but she stood up on her own. I want to stay, she whispered. The vet nodded. They gave her a small room, quiet, warm, just Boone, a soft blanket, and Mara. She lay beside him. For hours. She didn't draw, didn't check messages, didn't think about the world watching. She just stayed. And that? That was the bravest thing of all, because Boone had stayed through everything, through fists, fear, flame. He had stood guard when the world broke its promises. Now it was her turn. She whispered stories to him. One about the boy who named his dog after Boone. Another about the mural in a school across the country. Kids had painted it themselves. The dog in it wore Boone's red bandana. Boone blinked. Mara smiled. Then, as dawn threatened the snow outside with pink light, Boone gave one last sigh and slipped away with his head in her lap. Eli found her like that, still, silent, hand resting on Boone's back. She didn't cry right away. She didn't need to. Some grief comes so heavy, so sacred, it asks only for stillness. Later that morning, the clinic gave her the red bandana, washed and folded. She didn't unfold it. She placed it in her coat pocket right next to the first drawing she ever made of him. Boone standing between her and a wall of shadows. They walked home. Her and Eli side by side. No leash trailing behind, just tracks in the snow that didn't loop back. The town heard the news by noon. By evening, candles lined the mural wall. Boone's eyes, painted beneath frost, looked out at them all. And someone, no one knew who, added 3 new words under the mural. He stayed first. That night, Mara opened her laptop. The blog had hundreds of messages waiting. She didn't answer all of them. She just posted one picture, Boone's paw print in snow, and beneath it the words, I'll stay now. The post didn't go viral, but it didn't have to, because by morning, someone in Minnesota left their porch light on. Someone in Florida baked treats and handed them out to kids in the neighborhood. Someone in Nova Scotia sat beside their scared dog and whispered, We're okay. The world hadn't forgotten Boone. And Mara? She wasn't done yet. Grief doesn't knock. It seeps into old sweaters, into coffee cups, into the hollow spot beside you when you roll over and reach for what's no longer there. Boone was gone. But somehow he wasn't. His fur still clung to the corners of Mara's room, stubborn as always. His collar stayed on the coat hook. His bandana remained folded in her pocket, a red whisper of something that once barked and bounded and stayed. And for a while, that was enough. For a while, the world let her be. But silence doesn't always mean stillness, because something had shifted, not just in the town, but beyond. A school counselor in Michigan read We Stay aloud in a group for kids with selective mutism. A shelter in Texas named a new intake program Boone's Bridge, for dogs too scared to be adopted. A teenage boy from Ohio made a short film, black and white, showing a girl and a dog walking through fire, only to sit quietly under a tree as the world turned color again. And then came the invitation. It arrived in a padded envelope, addressed in looping script. The National Humane Hearts Conference. Los Angeles, keynote speaker slot, airfare covered, honorarium included. Eli read it twice before saying anything. "You don't have to go," he said gently. "Not unless it feels right." Mara didn't answer. She just walked to the bookshelf, took down Boone's drawing, the one with him standing like a sentinel, and held it to her chest. Then she nodded. The conference hall was enormous. Too many lights, too many polished shoes, too many people with glossy pamphlets and pin-straight spines. Mara felt like a lowercase letter in a world of capital ones, but then someone recognized her, a young woman with nervous hands and a therapy dog in a yellow vest. "You're her," she said. "You're the girl, the one who stayed." And for the first time in weeks, Mara smiled. The speech wasn't long. She didn't need it to be. She walked to the podium in silence, held the mic like it might bite her, and then, without a tremble, began. "My dog didn't talk, but he taught me how to listen. He taught me how to stay. And when the world tried to make me smaller, he stood beside me. So now I stand for him." The room didn't explode. It exhaled. And afterward, people didn't crowd her. They didn't ask for photos or autographs. They just came one by one, quietly, thanking her. Not for the story, but for the reminder. That silence isn't weakness, and staying is sometimes the strongest thing you can do. Back home, things didn't return to normal, because normal was gone. Instead, Mara built something new. She started a local program, the Boone Project. Kids who'd been through trauma were paired with shelter dogs too shy for adoption. They walked together, sat together, learned how to trust, slowly, without deadlines, just presence. One girl hadn't spoken in months. A mutt named Flip refused to eat when humans were near. By week 3, they were curled together in the reading nook, the girl's voice barely a whisper as she read Where the Red Fern Grows Aloud, Flip's head on her lap. Mara didn't take credit. She just watched, just stayed. And the town? It stayed too. The mural of Boone became a landmark. People left notes there, drawings, collars from dogs they'd lost. One message scrawled in chalk read, "He stayed." So did we. Eli built a bench near the lake, Boone's favorite place, on the back, engraved in steel. For the ones who barked when no one else did, and the ones who listened. Mara visited often, sometimes with kids from the program, sometimes alone. One crisp spring morning, exactly 1 year since the kick, the video, the voice, she returned with something new, a small pup, no more than a few months old, golden brown, ears too big for his head, tail wagging like it didn't know how to stop. She found him at a shelter 3 towns over. No name, just a nervous tremble and a habit of hiding under blankets. Mara knelt beside him now and whispered, "You don't have to be Boone." The dog licked her cheek. She smiled. "You just have to stay." They sat together on the bench. Pup curled at her feet, wind rippling through the trees. She pulled out her sketch pad, began a new drawing. This time it wasn't Boone. It was the new pup. Sitting next to a bench. Behind them, a silhouette of another dog, slightly bigger, standing watch, tail raised like a flag. Above it, she wrote, "Stay isn't just a command, it's a promise." She closed her sketch pad and leaned back. Boone was gone. But not really. Because every echo of him, the drawings, the blog, the letters, the bench, the fire he helped her walk through, still burned. Software bright, not a wildfire, a hearth, And that warmth, it kept spreading, in classrooms, in shelters, in homes where kids had learned that silence didn't mean shame, that kindness could be fierce, that love, when loyal, doesn't leave. Not really. And so, the girl who watched the world kick her dog didn't just speak back. She built something the world couldn't ignore. A movement without megaphones, a message without noise, a truth as old as loyalty and as quiet as breath. Sometimes, the loudest change begins with someone who stayed.